Yo, 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 what's up, Orlando? What's going on in the city, man? Glad to be back. It is a Thursday. Mad people are going to vote, which is good. We got this debate coming on, think about 9 o'clock, so there's mad politicking going on in the world, in the nation right now. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm very honored to have on my show today one of the great people that started hip hop culture from the ground up. I mean, this brother has been a part of so much legendary stuff. It's just amazing to be able to talk to him and chop it up with him about all things hip hop, man. This is so important for our city because, in Orlando, when I was growing up, I wanted to have their albums. They were nonstop on the radio. Shout outs to WOKB, WRL, with hits like Stick 'em, Jailhouse Rap, Can You Feel It? The hits just go on and on. Not to mention legendary stuff like Crush Groove, which was like, the quintessential hip hop culture moment for hip hop at that time. We had Beat Street and we had Crush Groove. So this, and we're not even talking about Disorderlies, like the list of legendary things goes on. He represents the Fat Boys, the original hip hop Disco 3, the Fat Boys. Let me bring on my man without any further doubt, the one and only Kool Ski. Let's go.
What up?
What's going on, my dude? What's going
I'm
on,
chilling.
bro? Yes.
That's a hell of an introduction. I'm chilling,
bro. I had to hold some stuff back, man, because there's so much stuff that you've done. But I'd rather you tell the story. You talk about the things that brought you to hip hop, because you're a little older than me, and I started out from day one, wanting to just be in some form of fashion in hip hop, whether it was graffiti writing, breakdancing, rapping, DJ. I wanted to do everything, and you were one of my inspirations in wanting to do that. But like I said, I'd rather you give our city an idea of where you originally come from and how did you start out in hip hop? How did this legend begin?
We were born and raised in Brooklyn, East New York, Brooklyn.
Yes, sir. And, shout out to Brooklyn. Let's go.
Yeah, shout out Brooklyn, man. So Brooklyn at that particular time was pretty much just a neighborhood. Listen, it was really, everybody has a story about their neighborhood. It was tough. It was this, it was that.
Right.
It was tough, but if you were looking from the outside, you'd be like, this is like a freaking zoo. But if you're living there, you don't see it like that. All you see is the beauty of it, playing in the streets, playing football constantly in the streets all day and night, especially in the summertime. And just pretty much just having fun, being a kid and having fun. We didn't have no luxuries back then, you know what I mean? So everything was just pretty much just doing your chores and going out and playing all day.
And give us an idea of what time period this is. Like
you're talking like maybe 1978, 79, early late 70s, early 80s. So we're just kids,
Right. So around that time, you did have the likes of Curtis Blowout. That was our first.
Sugar Hill Gang. Yeah.
Right.
Listening to tapes from Cold Crush.
Right.
Listening to tapes from Treacherous 3 and, between us playing football and having fun, we'd sit down on the porch. Somebody would come from other neighborhoods and say, hey, Cold Crush got a new tape out. And we'll sit and listen to their routines and be like, oh, this, this is dope and all that stuff like that. And then Rapper's Delight came out, and that was like it just tore down the doors after that.
Right.
With Rapper's Delight, it was a thing where we learned the song within a day and a half. You know what I mean?
Right.
The lyrics were so simple.
Right. Right.
And we learned the words in a day and a half. We were like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, okay, what's next? What else you got?
Right.
And then, the breaks came out, and Treacherous 3 Heartbeat. But when the message came out,
Talk about it. Talk about it.
That's when it was like, yo, this is serious stuff here.
Right.
We heard of Flash and the Furious 5 up until then, when they was making stuff like Super Rapping and those kind of songs. But when they made the message, it was like, oh man, like the message even broke grounds with older people who didn't know what the hell rap was.
Right. Right.
And even they had to take a listen to it because the message with the song was so strong.
Right.
Melly Mel's voice was so powerful. It was a contrast of two different people on the song. You had Melly Mel, who was the young, angry guy and just angry with his environment. And you had Duke Booty on the other side, who was like the laid back and just trying to tell him to calm down. It's going to be all right. And it was just, it's just remarkable. To this day, it's probably one of the most powerful songs in music history, not just hip hop, just music history.
When you're saying that, you just took me back to my childhood. I was 8 years old. My sister bought the record. She was older than me. And I remember skimming through her records, and I seen the message. And up to that point, to your point, Rapper's Delight was out. Everything else was out. And it seemed like fun. And it was like, whatever. But the message came out. And I'm talking about, to your point, it was a global, like, seriousness of how serious hip hop was. Like, he made it serious. Like, this is for that song spoke for so many people, so many neighborhoods.
It spoke volumes. And it didn't matter if you lived in a big city like New York.
Right.
It translated to everyone,
Right.
But it did give you an insight of what New York was at that particular time.
Talk about that, right?
Just saying broken glass everywhere, people pissing on the stairs, they just don't care. A lot of people couldn't fathom that at first. They were like, well, why are they pissing on the stairs? But then as people start to know New York a little better, they were like, oh, nah, we see what he's talking about. Can't take the smell, can't take the noise, got no money to move out. I guess I got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back. Listen, the houses in Brooklyn at that time were infested with rats because we had so many lots in Brooklyn. And there was a Domino sugar plant maybe 3-4 blocks from where we lived. So it was so many rats used to hang around there. The funny thing about the rats, though, I always tell people this story. We have so many freaking alley cats. The alley cats were as big as dogs. and these are some vicious cats. These weren't domestic cats.
Right.
And you look out your window like 10 o'clock at night, and you see them just picking rats up the size of chihuahuas and just carrying them around and killing them.
Wow.
Like, oh, they're getting rid of the rats, yes,
Right.
But that's just the way it was, just a rat infested area. And roaches. There was roaches everywhere. No matter if you kept a clean house. It was just a rundown neighborhood, but it was filled with a whole lot of love. If that makes any sense. The neighborhood just had so much love to it.
Right. It makes perfect sense because we hear that being talked about now, especially in today's politics. Like all of these neighborhoods are this, and they're shooting up places, but they don't talk about all the love that's in these areas where all these things are going on. And, looks can be deceiving sometimes because poor people are some of the most resilient people on earth.
Yeah. Resourceful, resilient.
Right.
A lot of the things that we went to bed with our bellies full, but it wasn't the kind of food that we wanted, you know what I'm saying? But, your parents made a way when there wasn't a way. So it was, listen, nobody starved. So that was a good thing about it. As we got older, we got summer jobs and stuff like that. But I think once we started listening to rap music, it was a thing where we were playing a lot of football. 'Cause we had like aspirations of being football players, and that's
Right.
why I mentioned football so much. So it's a lot of football, but the fallback was rap music.
Right.
So we knew if we weren't gonna make it doing this, we were gonna just go and rock parties and clean up the basement or whatever and just charge people. We just rock parties. That was our backup plan.
Okay, so Buffy and Prince, they were your childhood friends. Y'all grew
Yeah,
up
I met
together.
Mark first. Marky D,
Okay.
I met him first. I met Mark. I was 8 and he was like 7.
Okay.
I met Buff at 13 going on 14.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, so Buff came around the neighborhood a little later on.
Right.
So me and Mark, we actually grew up together, you know.
Right.
So Buff's part of the story comes up when he's coming into the neighborhood. He's like about 225 pounds. And
Right.
he's like a 13-year-old kid. But he is so athletic.
Right.
And he's riding a skateboard, and he's riding the skateboard really good. You would think he's like the big version of Tony Hawk.
Oh
And
wow.
he was killing that skateboard. And so one day, he's a new guy, he's the new kid on the block. And you know how it is with kids, they're not speaking too much at first, they're trying to figure each other out.
Right.
So we're playing in one of the many lots on our block. So it was Buff, myself, and a childhood friend by the name of Jimmy. And so we're playing in the lot, and I started rapping Treacherous 3 Heartbeat. And he just starts doing this beatboxing sound. So me and Jimmy look at each other like, the hell was that? And he's like, that's me. I was like, there's no way that can be you. I said, do it again. He does it again. I go inside his pockets. He said, yo, what you doing in my pocket? I said, well, you got some kind of device in there? He's like, no, it's my mouth. I said, okay, open your mouth then. He opens his mouth. There's nothing. I was like, what the hell is that? So he does it again. I'm like, whoa. So I started calling people from around the neighborhood. I said, yo, you got to listen to this. I said, check this out. People they were shocked because it was so powerful. It wasn't like he was doing like like some people do beatboxing just playing around with it. I mean, he was actually sounding like a drum. Right. And it just it bugs people out, man. They were like, yo, y'all should start rapping to that. And that's how we became close. So I told Mark about it. And Mark was just writing. Me and Mark was always writing like little rhymes here and there. Right. And so we just started rapping one day, and he was doing the beatbox on his steps on his porch. And people was just coming from everywhere and just checking us out. People would just stop coming home from work while they're walking down the block and they see us rapping. They'll just sit there like, where's that music coming from? Like, it's him. That's him. So they were just amazed by what was going on. So one thing led to another, and we started doing talent shows.
And what year is this? What year is this?
This is 1982. This is 1982.
Okay.
And by this time we're in junior high school, going to high school. And one day my sister pulls up, and she said, you guys are always rapping and doing that crazy stuff. They have a rap contest. They're having this kind of rap contest if you guys want to join. It's called a rap and dance contest. So I said, yo, we don't dance. She said, no, but it's rapping and dancing. So I'm like, at the same time? And she said, just forget it. She just walks in the house. So we had to figure it out on our own. So we're thinking like it's rapping and dancing. It's like, yo, we got to put some dance routines together and rap. But it was a rap and dance contest. Like it was a dance portion and a rap portion.
Right.
And so it was coming up on Saturday. I think she told us like on a Wednesday, and it was coming up on Saturday. Mind you, I had really strict parents. Buff had strict parents. So we didn't travel much. Right. And this was in the Bronx at the Disco Fever, the legendary Disco Fever that was holding the contest.
Wow. So
yeah, okay. Exactly.
So let's pause real quick. So for my people that are tuning in right now, you're in your teens, about to go into high school. Right. And y'all about to go to the Disco
Fever. Right.
Yes.
And as little kids, basically.
Right. Right.
We're not even freaking 15 years old yet, going on 16.
Wow.
And so I said, listen, here's the plan. Saturday morning, you guys are go down the block and just wait down the block. So my mother comes outside. I'm just going to tell her that they want me down the block. I'm just going on the block real quick, and we just hop on the train from there. So the plan worked to perfection. So we got to the Disco Fever, and we walked inside. We didn't even sign anything. We just walked right inside. Like we were so oblivious to what was going on. We just thought we could just walk right in and enter the contest.
Right.
So some guy, a bouncer, that worked at the Fever, he was in Crush Groove as well. He put this number on Buff's neck and said, "Yo, you guys are next," just out of nowhere. And
Wow.
I'm like, "We're next. What are we gonna do?" Only thing we did, we freestyled a lot. We never wrote nothing down pat. We just freestyled a lot of rhymes. So Buff said, "Yo, just freestyle, just go for it." So we got up there, we started rapping off the top of our heads. So as soon as we started rapping, Buff to the beatbox, that whole place went berserk.
Wow.
I mean, we seen Curtis Blow out there. We was pointing at Curtis Blow while we was rapping, like, "Yo, that's Curtis Blow." And he was up and just looking at, like, he had this amazed look on his face. So we won the semifinals. That was the semifinals that day.
Right.
And so we got back on the block, and everybody was looking for us. Like everybody's like, we got back. Our friends was running to us saying, "Yo, your mother and your father looking for you. Yo, they about to call the cops because you guys left." And because we always stayed on the block, we just kids.
Right.
So I got inside the house.
And that was a pretty decent train ride from East New York to Disco Fever.
Yeah, and we got on that train, man. We were so excited. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, my father going to freaking kill me.
Right.
And not verbally kill me. He's going to freaking whip my ass, So,
right.
I walked inside the house real slow, and Buff was like, "Yo, you want me to come in and explain?" I'm like, "Nah, she ain't going to believe you." So as I'm walking in the house, the radio announcer, and at this time it was Frankie Crocker. He was really big in New York.
Shout out to Frankie Crocker, because that was the heart of the music back then. BLS, yes.
BLS, yeah.
Yes.
And rest in peace to Frankie Crocker.
Yeah.
He pretty much saved me that day too. And he said, "I want to give a big congratulations to the Disco 3 for winning the semifinals of the Tin Pan Apple Rap and Dance Contest. Held at the Disco Fever today." So as he's saying that, I can hear the radio. I said, "That's us." So my mother's like, she has a switch in her hand because she found out I was back, on the block. I said, "That's us." She said, "What do you mean that's you?" I said, "We just won that contest." Just my sister came out of the room and was like, "Y'all, that's y'all the Disco 3? And I said, "Yeah." So my mother's like, "What is he talking about?" He said he joined a rap contest and it's the first place prize is a record contract. My mother's like, "You won a record contract?" I said, "Not yet. We gotta go to the finals." And that saved me an ass whipping that day, Frankie Crocker.
So how did y'all come up with that Disco 3? How did that become the first name of the group?
We had such elaborate names. At the time, my name was Mighty D Ski. Mark's name was Miller Mark Ski. Buff was the Human Beatbox DJ Doc Nice. So we got these big, huge, elaborate names, and you got Fantastic Five, you got Cold Crush, you got Treacherous 3. Let's just name ourselves something basic. So we came up with the Disco 3. So we're naive to everything. So we're like, well, this is Disco 4. Yeah, but it's 4 of them. It's 3 of us. You know what I'm saying? So that's how naive we were to a lot of things. So that's how we came up with the name Disco 3. We just took Disco 4's name and said Disco 3.
Right.
So so we won. Yeah, we won the semifinals, and the next week was the finals held at Radio City Music Hall. And we got up there. We won that. I think UTFO won. Mark said they came in second place. I could have sworn UTFO. Well, it was Doc and Kango. It wasn't UTFO. Mark said
shout out to UTFO, man. That's legendary.
We came up together.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought they won the dance portion. Mark said no, they came second place in the rap. And I never knew that till Mark told me that. And I always thought they came in second place as far as dancers because they were really good dancers. And so we won the first place prize, which was the recording contract. We actually won the DJ equipment. because we wanted to rock, we wanted to, just put on shows and do basement parties and that kind of stuff and try to make money.
Right.
We had no idea what a record contract could do for us. We didn't really give a damn about a record contract. We were like, well, we can't make records. We're just joining high school. We're just entering high school. How are we going to make records? So
Right.
that's how naive we were to a lot of things. And so after that, we won. And, the guy who put the contest together, which was Charlie Stetler, he became my manager after that. So, yeah, that's how it went down. And our first recording was a song called Reality. It was a take, everybody at the time was doing one of those message songs like Flash and the Furious 5 did, and that was the thing to do. So we did a rendition of that kind of song, and it didn't do nothing. It did jack.
Right.
I don't think it sold 2,000 copies, to be honest with you. So it didn't do nothing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, how do you get from that point of maybe bombing your first record to getting to the illustrious first Fat Boys album? And how did you get to carry the name the Fat Boys? So talk about that.
Fat Boys came upon because after the unsuccessful song, the first song, Reality, manager at the time wanted to regroup and get things back in order. The company at the time could have easily said, hey, this is not working out. You guys go your separate ways, we go our way.
Right.
But it didn't work like that. I think nowadays that it does work like that. If you're not successful, they're like, hey, this ain't going to work out. We wish you good luck in your future endeavors, that kind of crap. But he didn't give up on us. So he said, I'm going to get Curtis Blow to produce your next song. So me and Mark are like, Curtis Blow's not going to do no song with us. He doesn't even know who we are.
Right.
Lo and behold, we go inside the studio one day. Curtis Blow was sitting behind the board.
Right.
Like, yo, that's Curtis Blow. And he's sitting there with a white jacket. The Jerry curls is hanging out. He got the nameplate K Blow coming down. I'm like, yo, that's actually Curtis Blow. So after we're starstruck for damn near 20 minutes, he puts up a track and the bass line to Fat Boys and all that stuff. He's like, yo, you guys go in there and just write some stuff to this. And the song is called Fat Boys. We're like, okay, who's the Fat Boys though? He's like, no, that's the name of that's the name of the song. I'm like, well, why would we call a song Fat Boys? He's like, man, just write some rhymes. So we wrote freestyle rhymes. We just wrote street rhymes to it. We didn't write no song. He's like, nah, man, y'all gotta write a song. He taught us how to count bars.
Shout out to Curtis Blow on the production tip, because a lot of people think of Curtis Blow, they just think of the breaks. They think of his hits. But they don't think of the man behind the scenes and how he was the first.
Yeah, exactly. And he was the first rapping hip hop producer. Mind you, Curtis Blow did Problems in the World Today for Fearless 4.
Wow.
So he was already, doing his thing. And so we wrote the song, and so while doing the next song, he's like, yo, we got to do a B-side. Back then you had to do a B-side. So he said, yo, just kick some rhymes. Let me hear what y'all sound like. So while Mark was rapping, I was doing stuff like put it up, stick 'em, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, come on, put it up, stick. So he stopped. He's like, why do you keep saying put up, stick 'em? I'm like, we're just ad-libbing. He was like, he said, you know what? Y'all should make a song out of that. I said, make a song out of put up, stick 'em? I said, well, it's actually what they say in Brooklyn when they sticking you up. That's what put up, stick 'em really means.
Right.
And he said, well, make a song out of it. I said, we can't make a song out of somebody getting robbed. He's like, no, make a song out of it and let Buff y'all do it a cappella. And yo, Doug, we didn't know what a cappella even meant.
Right.
And what is a cappella? So he said, well, you're just going to rap and let him do the beatbox. And we're like, okay, we'll try it out. So me and Mark wrote Put Up Stick 'em within like maybe 2 minutes, because it was like, just some freestyle rounds we had already.
Right.
We just put them together. So we did the Put Up Stick 'em song, and at first we just did the rhymes without the Put Up Stick 'em to begin with. And that's when Curtis Blow said, "Nah, you got to start it off with put it up, stick 'em."
Right, right,
And he told us to put the ha 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 stick 'em in it. We just going put it up, stick 'em, put it up,
right.
stick 'em. And he was like, "No, say ha 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 stick 'em." I was like, "That makes no sense." So we started doing it, and it did make sense after we heard it. It was like, "Yo, that
Right,
sounds kind of hot." So
right, right, right.
so the song came out. The song came out while we were in our first year in high school. Me and Buff went to the same high school. Marks went to a different high school, and the song came out on a Friday in May. So Buff brother came to pick us up. People knew we were making songs. They really didn't hear reality. Our classmates, they really didn't
Right.
hear reality. They knew we were making songs, but they was like, well, where's your records at? Where's your money? Why y'all still coming to school if y'all making records? That kind of
Right,
stuff.
right.
So Fat Boys came out Friday afternoon, and we jumped inside the car, Buff's brother's car. May he rest in peace. We
Yes.
came. So Friday it comes out, and it's playing Friday. It's playing all day Saturday. It's playing all day Sunday. By the
Wow.
time we got back to school that Monday, it was like freaking mayhem. It was, yeah, it was crazy, man. I mean, we
Wow.
walked up the
Wow.
stairs to school, and it was like the whole school followed us. And we're looking
Wow.
back like, the hell y'all following us for? So they're following us to Buff was going to his home. I was going to my homeroom, and my homeroom was packed with people. So the teacher was telling the kids, you got to get out. What's going on. So that's when the principal got on. The principal was really close to my close friends with my mother, and she got on the loudspeaker and said, congratulations to Damon Wembley and Darren Robinson for their hit song, and everybody started cheering. You could hear people in other classes cheering.
That is so
And
crazy.
yeah, that was crazy, man. It's like being a football player making the winning touchdown in high school,
Right,
but 20,000 times that. You know what I mean?
right,
It's like
right.
it's like it
And
was
back
crazy.
then, to give everybody perspective, back then everybody heard the record
Right,
at the
right.
same time on the
Yeah.
radio,
Mind you,
because
they didn't play a lot of rap then, so a new
right,
rap
right,
record would stand out.
right,
So
right.
yeah, everybody was going crazy in that school, and so she got on the loudspeaker and said they're gonna be signing autographs. Just let them do their schoolwork. I'm like, signing autographs? We know these people. We see them every day. Why they want an autograph? So
Right, right, right,
um,
right,
yeah, that was crazy that day. I'll never forget that day. It was just something. It's like something out of a dream.
right.
And so
And,
we were successful with that. We just started doing shows here and there. Um, you know, and just doing New York shows, different kind of clubs. Being
right,
15, 16 years old, and being out to 2 o'clock in the morning,
right,
and rocking shows, rocking clubs, and all that stuff, and getting phone numbers from women like 25 and 30, because the girls our age can't be in the same club at that time. So, hey,
right,
what am I
right,
gonna do
right,
with a phone number of a woman who got a child same age as me? I'm saying, calling you,
right,
what I'm saying, that kind of stuff.
right.
And so we just started doing bigger shows and doing different shows with Run DMC and connecting with them every now and then, connecting with Houdini every now and then, and so
So was this
our
around the
manager,
time that you started heading towards doing the full length album?
yeah, we was working on the album and doing
Right,
shows, and because we were really hot demand at that time. We was doing
right,
like the same club three nights a week, that kind of thing.
right,
Like, we want you back at the club, and we only like $1,700. Our manager wasn't taking the money out at that time, so we was just splitting it between us three. So
right,
walking around with like $500 in your pocket, $700, like, yeah, I got $700, that kind of stuff. And
right, right, right.
um, so we at this time we're doing the album as well, and we're doing songs like "Can You Feel It" and "Jailhouse Rap" and um damn, I forget what else is on that album. It's
Stick
really an
'em.
EP. Yeah, Stick 'em. It's not even an album. It's an EP, to be honest with you.
Right,
Only has like 8 songs on there. So
right. But let's put this into real perspective. To this day,
Right.
When those keys come in on that jailhouse rap,
Yeah, it's
dude,
crazy.
it's
Yeah,
murder. Like that's
yeah,
one of the dopest
yeah.
tracks ever made. And then Stick 'em and then Fat Boys. I mean, like that album is
It's a
like
classic.
it's a classic. Like
Yeah.
that was that was y'all Thriller album. Like
Right,
to this
right.
day it
Yeah,
rocks. It just knocks,
yeah.
man. So
You
yeah,
know what's
continue,
crazy
brother.
about that album is that people were coming in and out the studio all the time. Melly Mel was coming in all the time. Russell Simmons, I guess he figured we was competition. He was coming in the studio a lot. Like,
Right,
every time we looked up, Russell Simmons was in the lobby or whatever and
right,
checking out what we were doing. So it was just so many things happening at that time, and
right.
um,
Was it
we were just
overwhelming? Was it kind of overwhelming for you at the time, having all
no
of this
because
fame and stardom and
No, not really. Because the thing was is that we really didn't know what was going on at the time. So it was pretty much
gotcha?
just taking everything into stride
Right,
and just pretty much you know, we're young. So we're walking around with like maybe $1,000 in our pockets, $1,500. And we're most of the time we're in the studio just counting our money. Like,
right,
how much you got? I got 2,000, that kind of stuff, just
right,
like fish out of water. We don't know what the hell's going on.
right.
And people around us are looking at us differently, but we're looking at each other like we're the same guys from the block. You
Which
know,
is dope. That's dope, man.
yeah, exactly. And we're still playing with our childhood friends anytime we get a chance to. We're still playing football in the streets and having fun, but they're looking at us like we don't want to hurt you. We don't want to tap you that hard. I'm like, why not? Like, you guys are
Right,
stars. Like, ain't no damn stars, man. We're your friends, that kind of stuff. And
right,
so it wasn't it didn't really we didn't really get overwhelmed with the fame and all that stuff at the time.
right.
It was just we just looked at each other like, we're from the neighborhood. We're from Skank Avenue. We're from East New York. We're Brooklynites, so we didn't look at it like that.
Shout out to Brooklyn, East New York.
Yeah.
This is like so many greats have come out of that part of the
Yeah.
city, and it's awesome to given how rough that place can be,
Right.
how many people have been able to persevere and get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're talking about the album now, I'm assuming based on, like I said, the reaction when that album dropped out here,
Right.
that took you from maybe local fame and local folklore to
Yeah.
like nationwide
Yeah.
stars at that point. How did that
Yeah.
translate into heading into? Because when I looked at Crush Groove, it felt like it was talking about your guys' story and how you came
Right.
up. How did that album translate to there?
To what, to Crush Groove or to the
Right,
rest of the country?
right. Well, that too. Yeah. So speak on it.
Um, the song itself, the Fat Boy song, was so radio friendly.
Right,
So radio just loved it because it had melody to it.
right,
Um, to this day, radio like radio friendly songs, things that they can play on daytime radio and not be afraid to play that kind of stuff. So
right,
um, I think a lot of people were looking at it like it was some kind of novelty at first, like we were
right,
making fun of it,
right,
and it didn't really start to resonate with people until they heard "Put It Up, Stick 'Em." That's
right,
when they were like, "Oh, these guys are serious." But then when they heard songs like "Can You Feel It" and "Jailhouse Rap," they're like, "Oh
right,
no, this is not no Weird Al Yankovic kind of crap. This is some
right,
real
right.
serious stuff,"
And shout out to
And
Weird Al Yankovic, because to your point, he was out at that time doing that
right,
kind of mockery
exactly,
stuff. And
right,
based on history, the Beastie Boys were put together kind of like a novelty at first, and
right,
that they wanted to get out of that because they thought everybody thought they were doing that kind of like as a
right,
novelty.
right. And
So
to be honest with you, on a side note, at one point I actually thought Beastie Boys were trying to sound like us. And
wow,
yeah, at one point I'm like, are they trying to sound like us? They're trying to mock us?
right,
And
right, right,
it was Mark who was like, nah, they don't sound nothing like us.
Right.
And I just got the thought out of my head after a while.
Right.
But I didn't think they were trying to be another Run DMC. I thought they was trying to mock us at first. And I was like,
Right.
nah. Then they started making songs like Brass Monkey. I'm like, well, we won't make no damn songs like that, so they can't be mocking us,
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah. So one thing led to another, and they were putting together a Fresh Festival tour. They're putting together a rap tour. They didn't have a name for it as of yet. I think it was Jermaine Dupri's father, Mike Malden, who came up with the name Fresh Festival.
Wow.
And it was going to consist of Run DMC, Houdini, Curtis Blow, Nucleus, Jam on It, a few breakdancers, and us.
Right.
So at first, Russell Simmons was opposed to the idea of having us on there because he said we don't have a big enough body of work. Like we only
Right.
got one song out. Nobody's
Right.
really playing Put Up Stick 'em. They're just playing Fat Boys.
Right.
So what happened with that whole thing with us being on the Fresh Festival? Our manager is the one who got Sprite. Our manager is the one who got Swatch Watch.
Wow.
So it's pretty much a thing where he said either they're on the show or I'm pulling the sponsors. So
Wow.
Mike Malden, Jermaine Dupri's father, and I think Ricky Walker, the other promoter for the investor for the show, they said, well, they got to be on the show. Not that they got to be on the show if they'll put a sponsor, like they're going to be on the show, no
Right.
matter what, because right now that record is huge in Georgia, and that's where they were based at that time. This record is played like 5-6 times a day in Georgia within
Right.
2 hours. Like this song is huge, so they got to be on the show. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't Run DMC, and it wasn't Houdini because he managed them. It was pretty much Russell who pretty much looked at it like, why are they on the show? They should be
Right.
on the same stage with Run DMC and Houdini. Like Run DMC,
Right.
they're on a different league and that kind of thing. And so, and we did shows with Run DMC leading up to the Fresh Festival. We did shows here and there with them. And
Right.
I mean, they was out before. They had Sucker MCs and all that kind of, and Jam Master Jay, and so
Right.
they were out way before us. So we didn't have a problem with Run DMC. We didn't have a problem with Houdini. We pretty much after every show we would meet up in Run's room and we just talk about the show, all of us together. DMC always had a tub full of 40 OE with ice. I don't know where the hell he gets all those 40s from to this day. Every
Yes.
city, this guy had a tub full of OE with ice. I'm like, dude, where you getting this beer from? No, don't
Wow.
worry about it. Okay.
Wow.
But so we became us, the three groups became really close. Curtis Blow was older, so Curtis Blow was pretty much more like after he do a show, he'd go to his room, call his wife or whatever. He wasn't really hanging out with us.
Right.
So not that he was trying to be antisocial. He was an older man. He was like, he had no
Right.
time for us kids,
Right.
So we was rocking. I mean, every show was sold out. You got to realize at this time.
And what year is this? What year is this?
This is
Give us the year.
84. This is 1984.
84. Yes.
We did two tours, 84 and 85. The first Fresh
Right.
Festival was so freaking successful. I mean, both tours were successful, but nobody seen that tour coming. Nobody could imagine that rappers can sell out stadiums like that.
Right.
And
Right.
a lot of the people who had booked us, or the insurance who was booking these stadiums, they didn't know about rap. They didn't know nothing about rap. They knew about the R&B groups and the Rick James and the SOS bands and all these people. They had no idea who Run DMC was and Houdini and Fat Boys and Curtis Blow was. So we're just rocking stadiums night after night and just having so much fun, and everything is just going well. Everybody's making money.
Right.
So yeah, so the Fresh Festival was like, I always told DMC, we talked about this before. I'm like, it's a tour that had to work. I told him like 3 years ago, I said, we look back on it now, we're older men now. I said, but it's a tour that had to work because it had to set the precedent for things to come, for tours to come, for
Right.
record sales to come. So this tour had to work, and it worked. It was successful, and it bust down the doors of the entertainment industry because they took it seriously. They're like, these guys are selling out like 25,000 seats with no problem within like 20 minutes.
Right.
And no fights, no discrepancies, and everybody's just having a good time. So
right. and that's so important when you're talking about the culture of hip hop. That was one of the first legit tours that was able to just open doors for all these young kids that benefit from that. You know, you guys were the ones that took all the risks. You were out there, you know, and trying to make it happen, and you guys succeeded, man. That's so dope, man. Continue.
It was dope. The going to places like California, and at this time, you know, the Crips and Bloods is running rampant. But these guys, they're coming together. They're meeting us at the hotels and just want to just vibe with us. They want to vibe with Run DMC. They want to vibe with Fat Boys. They want to vibe with Houdini. They want to talk to Curtis Blow. And they just want to sit down and ask us all about New York. How's New York? What's New York all about? Because at this particular time, New York was at the helm. They were at the pinnacle of hip hop. Like, they couldn't be touched, you know. So everything that was coming out in New York was pretty much setting the tone for hip hop music.
Right.
And so they just wanted to know all about every city we went to, Detroit, Chicago, Miami, Milwaukee. Everybody wanted to know about New York. And they wanted to hear us talk. What's the latest slang? Yo, that's dope. Yo, say that again? That's dope. like drugs? Well, if you want to call it drugs, we call it dope is fly. What's fly? You know, so we had to break all these words down to people.
Right, and, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, that was crazy. And the fashion, the you know, we're wearing the Adidas with the fat laces.
Right.
And they're like,
the
where'd you get those
suits.
sneakers?
Right.
The jogging suits, everything. That, you know, at this time, we weren't making the money to buy the big gold chains, but we had like the smaller gold chain. It was like, yo, where'd you get that from, Mr. T? I don't know no damn Mr. T. What will you give me to? You know, that kind of stuff. So everybody was just amazed and just looking at us and like we was these gods walking around. And a lot of us are soaking it up. You know, Houdini was like, you know, Houdini, they treated some of them hotels like the Playboy Mansion. You know what I mean?
I heard that, man. Shout out to Houdini, man. I mean, that freaks come out at night, man. That just did things to people, man. Those friends, and you know, shout out to Houdini, man, because that's entirely dope right there. Continue.
Yeah, Houdini's groupies were on a whole nother level. You know, they. Houdini had groupies like Prince had groupies, and you know, but it was all in fun. Everybody was just having fun, and we just had a real good chemistry, a good camaraderie between us three, and there was no competition. Only competition was who's going to rock a show better than the next.
Right.
So one particular week, it all came to a head. Run was talking so much crap, as he always does. And
shout out to Run. Let's go.
Yeah, Run was just he was just the biggest crap talker ever. It was like Michael Jordan on the court, just talking trash. And he said, "Yo, we get to California, I'm gonna bust everybody's ass. Nobody's gonna be able to touch me." We're like, "Yeah, whatever." And he was right. That particular show, like nobody could touch Run DMC that night. Yeah. So we got to Baltimore, and Houdini. Matter of fact, Houdini did the Freaks Come Out at Night video on that particular stage.
Oh my God! So yes, shout out. Yeah. Let's stop right there because that Freaks Come Out at Night is so legendary. You had Jermaine Dupri in it as a little kid.
Exactly.
The breakdance, the Fresh Fest. So now you put a city to it because. For the longest, I never knew what city that was. It just looked like
Baltimore.
It was Baltimore. Be more. Stand up. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. And it was pouring down raining that night. That's why you see all those umbrellas up in the audience. And Houdini could not be touched that night. Like they rocked it. Like we were on stage. They was singing Freaks Come Out at Night while we were singing Fat Boys and Can You Feel It? I'm like, yo, that's the Houdini song, you know. But so we got to Detroit.
And UTFO was their dancers, right?
They were their dancers.
Yeah.
And if you look on stage, if you look at that video, you will see, I think it's Kango.
Kango, yeah.
He's wiping the floor. Reason why he's wiping the floor because it was my birthday, and they brought a big cake out,
Oh
and
my
we
God.
started throwing cake at each us. Run DMC Houdini started throwing cake on the stage, and it made the
Wow.
stage really slippery. So if you look at the video, you can see Kango wiping the floor with the towel.
Shout out to UTFO, Kango Kid, the
Kango
Doc.
Kid,
Let's
Doc
go.
Ice, EMD,
Educated
one of
rapper,
the
man. Yes.
rest in peace. Mixed Master Ice, you know.
Yes.
So that week we got to Detroit, and as soon as we got off the bus, you could feel it. It was like, yo, this is going to be a crazy show. Because what happened, people was coming inside the hotel and asking for us only. Like they was walking past Run DMC, walking past Houdini, said, "What are the Fat Boys gonna be on the show? Are they here?" So they were getting pissed off. They're like, "Why are you asking us about them?" So we got to the Joe Louis Arena that night. I think it held like 22,000. And to this day, I don't know how that balcony up top did not fall. It was shaking like that. When we did Butt Up Sticker and we started that song, that place, you couldn't hear yourself think. That's how freaking loud it was. And you look to the side, you see Run just with his arms folded, the B-boy stairs just looking like he has his mouth wide open like, I can't believe this shit is happening. Like, you know? So they're actually rocking this place.
Wow,
it was so deafening that we had to do an encore. And mind you, Run DMC they closed the show. We had to do an encore.
Right.
And that's how crazy it was that night. And so, you know, after that particular show, you know, we had like some crazy discrepancies. It was cops everywhere because all the fans came to the hotel. So that was really the only time where cops had to get involved in that particular tour. But you know, other than that, man, it was just non-stop fun, non-stop craziness, non-stop stories, non-stop you know, nobody had no beef on that tour. We just all just out there and pretty much just happy to be on tour and rocking shows.
And that's amazing because, you know, when you're talking about, you got all these alphas, you know, representing, you know, different crews, different neighborhoods, different areas, and everyone is united under this hip hop culture in a way that, you know, you can't hardly see that today in certain, somebody's beefing with somebody, this one, that one. And to talk about you being, you know, you're on the come up, you're on the precipice of where you're trying to go, and they embrace you, which is awesome.
Yeah. It was an awesome feeling because it was just like a bunch of guys just trying to lay down the groundwork to spread hip hop. And that's what we were doing in every city. Cities who didn't know what hip hop was. Radio DJs who were like, well, I can't play this. My program director is going to get mad at me, and he'll play it anyway. You know, that kind of. Everybody wanted to have a piece of the pie when it came down to hip hop being spread and the culture getting bigger and bigger. So, you know, a lot of the older program directors didn't know what it was, so they was reluctant to play it. Later on, I found out that talking to these program directors, they were like, we was getting so many requests for you guys, for Houdini, for Run DMC, for Curtis Blow, that we had no choice but to play these songs. Like people was calling up all day just requesting Fat Boys, requesting Rockbox, requesting Freaks Come Out at Night, requesting Jam on It, you know, so on and so forth, that they were forced to play it. Or else they'll lose their listeners.
And you're talking about an era in which there is no hip hop radio stations. These are all quasi top 40 and R&B stations. And
because K-Day in California didn't come along to like 85, 86.
Right. Shout out to K-Day.
Which was an all hip hop R&B station. But these stations, they were still on the Vic James and the SOS bands and the, you know, Tina Marie's, Shaka Khan's. They wasn't trying to hear no jungle music is what they called it. You know what I mean?
Shout out to anybody that's heard that term jungle music. I remember my mom telling me turn that jungle music off.
Right, exactly.
And, you know, and that's
My
what I
father
knew
called it
this
jungle
would
music
go.
a couple of times. Yeah.
Right.
My father called that boogity music. You know, like that boogity stuff.
Yes.
You know, but so we had a hard time trying to convince the older program directors that this is going to be the wave of the future. A lot of them didn't want to accept it. A lot of them was like, yeah, this is just going to play out. It's going to play itself out. And, you know, of course, we're looking at it like it's going to get bigger and bigger.
Right.
Because when going back to Rapper's Delight, the thing was with Rapper's Delight was they thought that was going to be the end of it.
Right.
We'll play this song because it's hot and a lot of people requesting it, but that's going to be the end of rap after that. Nobody's going to come out with nothing after that, and who's going to play this crap? And that's how they thought of it. You know, lo and behold, you know, Curtis Blow and Flash Furious 5 and Run DMC, you know, who broke the grounds of everything. And we came right after them, and Houdini, and you know, and Beastie Boys, LL. So, you know, you name it was coming out after that. And you know, like I said, we just had a good time. We just had a lot of fun back then. We connected with so many people our ages too.
Right.
You know, just a friend. You'll talk to somebody in the hotel lobby who's the same age as you, who has the same interest as you, and you just trade phone numbers. And you get back home off the road, you're calling them like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, like you grew up with them. But this was the kind of stuff that we were doing because we were just having so much fun and meeting so many different people. So that's just the way it was. And
so talk about how that translates into Crush Groove, because it seemed like they talked about a lot of basically what you were saying. It was almost autobiographical for everyone. I know it was about Def Jam, but everything else, it seemed to like follow everyone's career. Was this after Fresh Fest? After you guys were, or before?
Fresh Fest came. I mean, no, Crush Groove came on the second Fresh Fest.
On the second Fresh Fest.
Yeah, the second tour. We went on tour with New Edition, just to pass the time, make some quick money, whatever. Went on tour with New Edition, and until the Fresh Fest was available again. So the Fresh Fest rolled around again, and a guy by the name of Ralph Farquhar, I think it was. I think he wrote for the Moesha show, and he came on the bus. He came on our tour bus, and he said, "I'm writing a movie." And he said, I'm going to write you guys into the movie, but I'm just going to sit back and see how you guys interact with one another. Right. So as he's sitting there, we're just being ourselves, you know, acting crazy, doing all kinds of crazy stuff on the tour bus. And he's just sitting there laughing and writing stuff down. So next thing you know, our manager's saying we're going to start shooting the movie Crush Groove. So he said the movie's called Crush Groove, and it's about Run DMC. That's the way he put it to us. It's about Run DMC. So we got on the set, and Michael Schultz, who did the movie Car Wash and Coolie High and Which Way's Up, he's talking to all of us at a round table, and he basically telling us that one part we're supposed to be doing, walking down the street with the box and listening to King of Rock. Right. And what happened is he told our manager that he got back the dailies. He was sending dailies out to California. He was getting them back, and they were requesting that more of us be added in the movie. Because we put more of those guys in the movie. We got to put them more in the movie because the movie was supposed to be only about Run DMC. Right. And of course, Russell Simmons is on the set. He's pissed off and saying, "This is a Run DMC movie. This is no damn Fat Boys movie." You know how he talks. So the director's adding us more and more into the movie because, as he put it, if you want to sell this to America, you can't sell it with angry black men. You gotta have some sort of fun, some kind of comic relief to it. Because people, if you want people to take hip hop as a thing where they're looking at it from two different directions, it could be hard and it could be funny. You can't have it just one way. It'll play itself out real quick.
And you said just something completely pivotal here, which was, you know, that's what we've been dealing with forever when it comes to people of color. They
Right.
didn't want to see the angry black
The
man.
angry black man, right. They didn't
Right.
want to see the smiling black man. They wanted
Right.
it to be right down the middle.
Right. Right.
Can he not be angry? Could he smile a little bit and be angry again? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's what plus you gotta remember this is Michael Schultz. So he came from that civil rights background where
Right.
he looked at it like I'm trying to expand this culture and expand this music. I don't want you guys to get caught up in a situation where white America is looking at you guys like a bunch of idiots. So I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to
Right.
put out some good product for the little bit of money that they're giving me to put this movie out.
Right.
So we were on the set every day. Us, Run DMC, and Houdini didn't want to be in the movie because we only got paid $18,500 for that movie, each of us. Everybody
Wow.
got. So yeah, the movie only cost $5 million to make.
Right.
So Houdini thought they were worth more than that, and they were. We all were worth more than that. But
Right.
we was looking at the bigger picture. Like,
Right.
yo, this is going to be a movie. This is going to be around forever. This is
Right.
not a video. This is going to be a movie. So they,
Right.
they turned the movie down. That's why you see Jekyll and Hyde in the movie.
Right.
Um, right. That's supposed to be Houdini's part. So
Oh wow.
LL had no problem being in. LL was doing background. he was all in the movie. So LL
Right,
said,
right.
"Heck with that. I'm going to be in this movie." So and he had a memorable part in the movie when he crashed through the door and did the radio song.
Right.
So
Right.
that was his breakout role right there.
Right.
And so we did the movie, and it was.
And how did you feel when you were doing that movie? Like, how did you think it would have the impact that that movie eventually did? I mean, how did you feel about that?
Not at first, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know how they editing everything. You don't know what they're putting together. So we're just looking at it like we're just acting in a movie. So Michael Schultz is pretty much telling us just to be ourselves.
Right.
It wasn't until Prince came on the set. Prince came on the set a couple of times.
Oh wow.
And we were like, because Sheila E. was in the movie.
Right.
He came on the set, and he had this bodyguard the size of a building. And the first time he comes on the set, he requested that nobody looks at him. Like,
oh my god! Oh, that's hilarious.
And I said, this is going to be crazy because this is New York, and they don't take lightly to people telling them, you can't look at me.
Right.
So,
and Sheila E. at that time was like the cover of Beautiful. She she was just like that was the second star of the movie, damn near, and she didn't play that big of a role, but everyone loved Sheila E. That was her time right there. And that's actually before she dropped that was before she dropped her music on top.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for Sheila E., this was her Purple Rain, if you really think about it.
Right.
He had his Purple Rain. This was her Purple Rain. But she was really extremely nice. Like, she was really nice. Like, she didn't know who we were, but she was asking questions all the time and asking us, were we okay? And how does your parents feel about this? And are you guys being treated right? She was always asking us all these questions and just making sure we were good. And plus, once she found out our age, she was like, "Oh, you guys are young enough to be my damn sons," and all this kind of stuff. And she was really cool. I mean, Prince was cool, but Prince was he was Prince. He was just a shy guy who pretty much was arrogant, but he was shy. So that was his demeanor. So we did the movie, and what's crazy about once again, we go back to the time where Fat Boys came out. We were in high school.
Right.
The trailer comes out for Crush Groove.
Right.
We're standing in front of Buff's house. Maybe like 8 or 10 of us just standing around in front of Buff's house talking. A group of girls came in the car and started yelling and jumping. I think we're from Providence, Rhode Island somewhere. They jumped out the car and started going plumb ass crazy. We looked up, and it was cars coming down the block. A lot of them we knew, a lot of them we didn't know. People was just hopping out the car asking for autographs. We're like, well, what's going on? somebody came there and said, "Yo, we just saw the movie, like the Crush Groove movie's coming." Like, oh, the movie's coming out. They must have saw it on TV. That it was on a Friday. They must have showed the trailer on TV. So the block got packed again, and that was crazy too.
Right.
And the movie comes out. We do the premiere. We have a good time at the premiere, and a lot of stars are there and all that stuff, and and that movie, man, it was just it was crazy how many fights was happening across America at all these movie theaters.
Talk about it, because I know as a kid down in Orlando, we our biggest theater at the time was Fashion Square Mall, and they made such a big deal. They didn't even want to play the movie, and finally they did. But to your point, they were threatening people to get shot and all this stuff. And,
I think people get excited when they see them. They see us. On a big screen, people get excited.
Dude, let's just be real about this. That was, now mind you, the only hip hop movie prior to that, I believe, because Wild Style. Wild Style. No, okay, so there was two. So it's Beat Street, Wild Style, which Wild Style wasn't in every movie theater. Okay? Right. Beat Street was. And then you had Crush Groove, which at the time had every single body that was hitting.
Who was hot at the time, exactly.
At the time. Right. And it was like the story of hip hop in a movie. And dude, it was, that movie is that should be shown in class somewhere. That's how hip hop got started for a lot of people. They seen that movie and boom, they're hip hoppers now.
I always said that once Crush Groove came out, the floodgates were open. The floodgates just flooded open. If you thought about going to college after high school, you scratched those thoughts and was like, I'm going to be a rap star. If you thought about playing football or something or basketball and going to college, now I want to be a rap star. I think that's what hip hop, that's what Crush Groove did for a lot of people. I think too was that the thing with Crush Groove and the movement of hip hop at that time, it was like a perfect storm. You had the Fresh Festival, you had the hip hop culture getting bigger, and then you had Crush Groove. And everything was all coming together. Everything was all coming together. And it was just a fun time to get into hip hop and to be a fan of your favorite groups at the time. And mind you, there wasn't that many solo rappers. It was a lot of groups.
It was groups.
It was groups. And DMC told me one day, he was like, yo, think about it. He said for 6 months, the only rappers that mattered were us, you guys, and Houdini. He said, just think about that for a minute. He said for 6 months in the summer of '84, only we mattered. People would go to the store and say, either you got a Fat Boys album, you got a Run DMC album, or you got a Houdini album. You know what I mean? He said,
that is insane, man. Insane.
And I never thought about that. I'm like, you're right. At that time, we were on the radio, and then followed by Houdini, followed by Run DMC, all day. So it was just a really good time to be young and having fun. And that's what the thing was. Hip hop was just a young movement because we came out the rock and roll era. We came out the disco era. And now hip hop is here. A lot of people didn't take to hip hop for the fact that it came strictly from the streets. It came from young blacks and young Latinos. And so when you have that, that, a lot of people don't want to see that excel, especially if they're having fun. See, the basic thing is if they're having fun. The money part comes secondary. But if they're having fun and there's no violence, this is going too smooth. We gotta put some.
And you have one of the first, Puerto Ricans to be in a successful rap group, which was legendary within itself because y'all group represented unity in that regard. Because few years later, there was a massive divide when the pro-black movement came in, and a lot of Spanish people kind of went their separate ways when it came to hip hop like that.
Yeah.
So for you guys to be, holding that flag up is completely and utterly amazing.
Well, a lot of people didn't know Mark was Puerto Rican. He was just a light-skinned black guy, and Mark was like a cat sometimes who hung out with a lot of dogs and thought he was a dog after a while. And I had to pull Mark to the side and be like, no, you are Puerto Rican. You know
right. No, we all black. We're all black. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we're all black.
No, I mean, Mark was just a thing where Mark was like, he loved his culture, of course. He loved being Puerto Rican. But Mark was just so infatuated and hardcore, with being a black male. And it's like, I don't date Spanish women. I only date black women. I'm like, dude, I'll date them if you don't want them. That kind of
during that time, there was a lot of in racism, and it still is. But there was a lot of in racism when it comes to, Spanish people thinking that black people may kind of are bad, and you don't fuck with them, and we have that in all races, light skinned, dark skin, that light skinned, dark skin shit. Yeah. So
we grew up. That's all came up in the neighborhood though. It was just black and Spanish. That's it.
Right.
There was no a lot of people who were Jamaican or Haitian, they wasn't claiming that. That's the crazy part. They're like, no, I'm not Jamaican. I'm not Haitian. I'm black.
And shout out to all the Jamaicans in hip hop, because there's mad Jamaicans in hip hop that you would never know was Jamaican. Which is crazy. To your point.
And Kango was Haitian. EMD, educated rapper, man, he rest in peace. He was Haitian.
Wow. Shout out to all my Haitians. Let's go.
Yeah. So hip hop was just, like I said, it was getting bigger. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And Run DMC was leading the charge, and we were like right behind them. Houdini was here, and you had the emergence of LL. You had the emergence of the BC Boys. You had a KRS-One, Rakim. So everybody was just coming, and we was passing that baton back to the second wave. We was passing that baton back to Heavy D. Run DMC passing that baton back to EPMD. So somebody else was coming forward, and that's just the way it was. There was no kind of discrepancies between the acts because we weren't doing the same music. Fat Boys wasn't doing EPMD music. Rakim wasn't sounding like LL. Big Daddy Kane wasn't sounding like KRS-One. Nobody was sounding like Public Enemy. So everybody just had their own lane and selling their own amount of records, and they were happy with that, And so it wasn't until the later stages of hip hop where it started getting to a competitive, physical, violent kind of atmosphere. By the time I would think like 89, 90 came, that's when it started getting to that kind of atmosphere. But as far as like I said,
and how did you feel about that? And how did you feel about that when hip hop took that shift in that 89, 88, 89, 90 era? When you started to release the guard a little bit, how did you feel about the transition? How did that how did that make you feel?
Well, being in California, you heard songs like 6 in the Morning, you heard songs like Battle Rap.
Shout out to Ice-T, yes. That's
shout out to Ice-T and Toddy T and those guys. And but you didn't really think they were, and of course, Schoolie D,
Schoolie D, shout out to Philly, let's go.
And so it was around, it was there. But when I brought in that NWA tape in 1989, we were in the studio, and I said, you got to hear this, man. I said, yo, this is effing crazy. And I put in the tape, we played Straight Outta Compton on the loudspeakers. And that energy, that sound, that craziness going on, along with the language and the and the profanity. But it was like, see, what those guys were talking about, we were living it. It was happening to us. With the cops being at an all-time high. You think the cops is bad now. You didn't listen. Those
Talk
cops
about
did
it,
not play.
Talk about it, brother. Talk about it, because we live in some treacherous times right now, and people need to hear the truth. Talk about it, brother.
Yeah, you think those cops is bad? You think they're bad now? They were worse then because there were no cameras picking up their craziness.
Right.
So these guys were doing all kinds of crazy stuff back then that wasn't getting reported because it was your word against theirs. You
Right.
know, taking
Right.
your car,
Right.
you showing the license. Yeah, that's the license right here. And we're gonna take your car. Going through your car, and just ransacking your car,
Right.
patting you down for pretty much no reason at all, knowing
Right.
who you are and still doing it.
Right.
So when they made that song "F the Police," we were like, "Yo, that's the shit that's what's going on right now." But I think with them, it's like, they said it with so much bravado. They said it with so
Right.
much like we don't give a damn.
Right.
And at this time, Kool Rap wasn't the Kool Rap that we knew like back that came later.
Right.
Schoolie D wasn't going that far. Ice-T wasn't going that far. These
Right.
guys took it to a whole nother level where Run DMC couldn't even fathom to be on.
And talk about
know.
that because, when we talk about, to your point, let's say the West Coast and all that energy,
Right.
Colors, the album Colors
Right.
had
Right.
Ice-T's song on it.
Yeah.
And then the rest was damn near cold chilling. It was straight East Coast.
Yeah. East Coast. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
and
we gotta remember East Coast still had that hold over hip hop.
Right. But when we're talking about that energy, I think, groups like the NWA, that energy was so pent up because of lack of representation. And to your point, it was the crack era. They had, they had a green light to, push dope on the streets and send in all these guns. Yeah. And then the cops had a green light to just clean up the mess.
Yeah.
Because they're actually doing it. They're putting the dope back out on the street and they're doing it. So all of this shit is going on, and NWA comes out, Dr. Dre, shout out to Dr. Dre, this loud ass fighting music, which is what it was. And to your point, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
During that time,
that was real rebellious music. We was rebellious. Hip hop was rebellious.
It was a rebellious moment in time.
This was rebellious to the 10th power. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what rock and roll could never ever be.
No.
And then you had hip hop come out, and it was rebellious, but it wasn't on that kind of level of being rebellious.
No. No.
Schoolie
D was rolling over in his grave when he heard that straight out of Compton, because that song by itself caused a whole bunch of robberies, a whole bunch of murders. I mean, that energy, to this day, Dre is unmatched when he was able to really take out an emotion in which we all try to suppress and put it on a record.
Not to mention the Bomb Squad that came after them, who produced Ice Cube's first album.
Talk about it, yes.
They took a lot of energy from that first album.
Right.
Because that album was filled with nothing but energy. I mean, the loud rapping, which Ren said later on, he got the loud rapping from us and Run DMC. That's why they used to always scream in the studio, because they were trying to match what we were doing with the loud rapping.
And then to your point, that Ice Cube album, that America's Most Wanted album, shout out to the Bomb Squad. I always say, and it always felt like to me, that was It Takes a Nation to Millions to Hold Us Back, with Ice Cube on it. Because that record was just incredible.
That album, those two albums, I would say Death Certificate is probably one of the greatest albums, in my opinion, in hip-hop history.
Wow. Talk about it, brother. Talk about it.
Yeah, that album is just a freaking masterpiece from beginning to end. He said so many things in that album that's resonating to today. That's resonating right now. So Ice Cube was way, way, way ahead of his time. Chuck D is probably one of the most prolific, just the rapper that just gets inside your soul when he speaks or when he raps.
Dude, so when that Welcome to Terror came out, bro, I nearly didn't. I could have died at that moment and not hear not one more record.
Yeah.
Because that record to this day is probably one of the greatest singles that ever came out, ever. And
when
to
he
your
said
point,
the line,
Chuck D is a prophet, man. He's a prophet.
Oh man, he's just one of the greatest deliverers on wax.
Right.
And the line what he said, I know that song like the back of my hand. Crucifixion ain't no fiction. So-called chosen frozen.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my goodness.
Still got me like Jesus. Let's go.
Still they got me like Jesus. I'm like, man. And this is on the heels of Professor Griff being kicked out of the group.
Right.
So he doesn't really have.
And here's where Florida history comes in. He came to Florida, Professor Griff, and got
he signed to Luke?
Yeah, he signed to Luke. Pawns in the Game. Shout out to Luke Records that put out Pawns in the Game. And dude, that Chuck D wrote that song, but it was just incredible. We were rocking that because for Luke, a lot of us grew up on Luke, Two Live Crew, and all of that. Then, but we never heard hip hop out of him. And so when that was going on, there was actually trying to ban music, trying to censor it and everything. And he said, "Fuck that, Public Enemy, come on down here. We'll take Professor Griff. We'll put that album out as a protest." And so there's so much history when we're talking about Public Enemy and their impact on all of us.
Yeah, I mean, your Public Enemy. Chuck tells me this story about he was in a Delphi College in Long Island, New York, and him and what's his name from the Bomb Squad, Hank Shockley. They were putting on parties on the campus, and they got us there. They got us to come there, and we come to the college. We rock the college. This is his words. We came there in a white van. Wasn't even a limousine. He said we came in the dressing room. We got in the dressing room. We asked what time the show starts. They said it's going to start like maybe 30 minutes. We like, cool. He said, yo, we sat there. He said, yo, I'm looking at y'all like, this is Chuck was telling me. I'm looking at y'all like, yo, these are kids. And you would think they're like in their 30s. Like they're so calm and serene. And he said, yo, y'all got up there. Y'all rocked it. Y'all shook our hands. Y'all went back out the door. Y'all left. He said, yo, after that, he said, yo, I told Flav, we got to get out there. He said, yo, we got to make it. He said, yo, them dudes is like professionals. And I was like, damn, that's crazy story. But yeah, Chuck, I always tell Chuck, every time I talk to him, I say, listen, I'm talking to you like a fan. So if I'm staring at you, don't mind it. I'm saying I'm talking to you like a fan because you're one of my greatest inspirations. In music, period.
For us all, man, because his records are so important. I don't even think you could put an age on any of his records. Exactly. Because they all have aged well over the years to a point where when I listen to My Uzi Weighs a Ton right now, it sounds like it just came out. And I'm like, and I remember that time where everybody was like, "This is noise. What do you want? What do you want to listen to noise for?" And I was like, "Nobody's doing this. This sounds incredible." It's like, I mean, they were so far ahead of their time.
He said, and that's the Bum Rush the
Show, man.
Bum Rush the Show first album.
Yeah,
he said a line in there. He was going through the comic books, Prince Namor, Prince of the Deep, and he was all over the place with his lyrics, And it was just getting back to NWA when they came out.
Yeah.
Thing was a lot of straight up one thing about New York, they have two different levels of brothers. You got the tough brothers, street cats, and you got the nerds who don't go down the road of the street cats. This is why I always say when cats are acting tough in hip hop and all that stuff, I'm like, nah. These are the real tough ones. These are the guys who don't call themselves thugs or gangsters. You call them a thug, you gonna get knocked the hell out. They don't play that stuff. They don't want to be called that. And these were the guys, you play these songs for these guys. They were yo, what is country MFs rapping, man? Nobody want to hear that. So they didn't really understand NWA like that. They understood the F the police, but the real street cats, they didn't really get with NWA like that. Like I would play it for cats, street cats. You're like, yo, who the hell is that? Why they sound so country? I'm like, yo, these dudes just they kicking that stuff. Man, I want to hear that, you know. So, but like, you know, just getting back to NWA, they just changed the whole landscape. Whatever Run DMC built, they put a roof over. Put it like that. Run DMC built the house, NWA put the roof over the house, and that's the way I look at it. So I mean, I got so much respect for Dr. Dre and Cube and, you know, Ren and, you know, Eazy-E, just some talented individuals. And the thing was, you know what I always say to this day? If it would have stopped right there, if it had stopped right there with NWA, I think we would have had a different rap, would have been a lot different if it would have stopped with NWA. I think NWA was good for the culture, but I think it opened a lot of doors for elements in hip hop that they was just doing it for shock value and not for the creativity of it. So a lot of people was just cursing and using the N-word and saying derogatory things about women because it was shocking. Not because it was art. It was just shocking. And the record labels, they ate that stuff up. And putting the money into it. So the message that cats like Poor Righteous Teachers and KRS-One was trying to get across, and of course Public Enemy and X-Clan, is being
Shout out to Brother
overshadowed.
J, X-Clan, let's go. Yeah.
And they were being overshadowed by
you're speaking truth to power, because during that time it was completely smothered by one particular sound. Unlike the 80s where everyone was invited to the table, it seemed like one, but now mind you, this is during a time where hip hop had became pro-black, like the extremes. You went to pro-black and gangster. You know, two polar opposites when it comes to what was going on. So the one that was pro-black, they didn't want people educated, questioning things, you know, and why are we, you know, the edutainment, you know, learning about things that could better ourselves. They liked the other side where it was about 40 ounces, you know, getting crazy and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was the message. And
they pushed the narrative to the people that you named. Nobody want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear cursing. They want to hear the 9mm going off. They want to hear, you know, women being called bitches and hoes. And nobody wants to hear the message no more. You know what I mean?
And the exact point was realized in the movie Menace to Society. If you remember Menace to Society, remember the brother that was trying to fix himself up? He was shunned by mostly everybody in the movie, you know, and told to shut up. And that was during the time, to your point, that the Poor Righteous Teachers was out and all of this stuff that was talking about
the famous line. The famous line that Jay-Z used against Nas. We try to kick knowledge. That line came from Menace to Society. You know, he tried to kick knowledge. You know, and Jay-Z, see, that line that Jay-Z said to Nas in that song was what was going on in the industry. Nobody want to hear that no more. Nobody want to hear you talk that pro-black stuff. You try to kick knowledge. Nah, this is the streets. You know what I'm saying? And it just watered it wasn't even a watered down thing. It just made rap so one-dimensional. It made it so one-dimensional. And by the time 92, 93 came out, and you had Snoop, you had Dr. Dre with the Chronic, you had Snoop with Doggy Style, you had a whole array of nothing but one-dimensional kind of rap. Mind you, it was really orchestrated real well. The production was top-notch in Doggy Style. The production was top-notch in the Chronic. But long were the days of Public Enemy, KRS-One, Poor Righteous Teachers, X-Clan. Everybody was trading in their their black beanies and their black medallions
Medallions,
for
right,
scully caps. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So
right.
people would,
And
you
then
know,
and then the East Coast, they shortly came out with, the Onyxes and
right,
the
throw your
Mobb
guns in
Deeps
the
and the
air.
Biggie.
Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah,
It was all like it took a sharp turn
really
left,
sharp. Yeah,
and it
yeah,
seemed like it felt like a year or more where
right,
everything was talking about shooting somebody, or
right,
or or
right,
or fuck this girl or
right,
whatever. It was
right.
just, it seemed nationwide that would, to your point, was the
Selling
narrative.
drugs. Yeah,
Selling
it was.
drugs, right.
Yeah,
And it did harm to hip hop in a way, because it kind of closed the market for a lot of people that were trying to say something like your Arrested Developments,
right,
and people that were trying to change course a little bit. But we still had outcasts. We still had
right.
people out there that were trying to change the narrative in their own ways.
We
And
had guys like the what's the guys 93 and Till.
right, you talking about Souls of Mischief? Shout out to the
Souls
Bay
of
Area.
Mischief. Yeah, you
Yes,
had those guys out
Common,
there. Yeah,
Common.
you had Common was coming
Right,
up, and so you had a
the
lot of groups
Roots.
still out there. Yeah, Lauren Hill,
Right,
the
right. The
Fugees came out.
Fugees. Right, right. So I
But
think as much as it harmed, it actually without that craziness, because people got
right there
tired
you
of it.
go.
It
Right,
it pushed these artists into having a space where
right.
before they just put down the medallions and all
Yeah,
but the content was similar, but they just put all that garb down
right,
and kind of made themselves look like the average Joe.
right.
So they weren't
Yeah,
wearing the necklaces. They weren't looking like,
right,
drug dealers. They looked like the guy down the street,
right,
and,
right,
and it added to the hip hop in a real positive way. And it gave people like the Wu-Tang clans,
right.
like you just said, it's the Souls of Mischief, I know I'm missing a lot of people. Even Scarface kind of changed his tune, because when the Ghetto Boys came out prior, they were NWA similar, and even
Right.
Scarface started to change the way he was approaching things and talking about
Yeah,
things. So
yeah,
they had an impact that was tough for a few years, but
right,
eventually everybody said, "Damn that." But we're
right.
kind of back to it. If you look
Yeah,
at the modern music, we're just not talking about necessarily at the level of, because while they were talking about shooting people and not giving a fuck, they're also talking about political issues. And a lot of the stuff
yeah,
going on right now is
yeah.
talking about everything but the political issues.
Well, I think like I told someone when this whole pandemic started, if artists don't come out of this with something, um, with substance, and
Right,
not the same old stripper, I'm getting money, I'm flipping keys,
right,
I don't give a fuck attitude, then I don't know what's going to happen with the music, because this is a perfect time to reinvent the music. This is
right,
the most perfect time to reinvent it, to
right,
make it go back to what it was. And I'm not talking about I'm not saying young artists should try to sound like a Public Enemy or sound like, but be creative now with it. You don't have to do the same old stuff you were doing before the pandemic started.
right,
Um I was just, I think it was last month. Um when everything was out ahead. You had the George Floyd situation, you had the Breonna Taylor situation, you
right,
had the Black Lives Matters in the streets, you had
right,
everybody protesting, you had the president, and you had the pandemic. And you look at the '60s, and you look at Change Is Going to Come by Sam Cooke,
right,
and that was speaking to the civil rights movement in the
right,
'70s. With the war in Vietnam, you had Marvin Gaye singing what's going on in Trouble Man. Black unemployment was at an all-time high. Black fathers leaving the household or being kicked out the household because the emergence of welfare, kicking
right,
black men out the household. And you had songs by Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder, who was talking about the times. Now you go to 2020, and you have a pandemic, you have the Black Lives Matter, you have all this stuff happening, the basketball players are protesting. And the biggest song to come out is WAP. It's like, where's the song for the times?
Talk about it, my brother. I mean, you're just singing right into my ear, brother. This is what we're talking about, brother. Yes.
This is like, if this is not the biggest freaking industry motivated conglomerate pumping money into something that makes no sense. And I have nothing against Meg Thee Stallion. I have nothing against the new crop of rappers if that's what they're doing. But where is the motivation? Where's the motivation? You know.
Let me say something to you though, which kind of couples what you're saying. When we're in 2020, and part of the reason for this show is I feel like we have a tough time communicating real shit.
Right.
All this information in the world, all of the stuff that we have available to us, and we don't talk. Somebody could be suffering right in front of you and won't tell you.
Right.
So
they'll text it to you.
Right. So and even when we see these stories of people going through stuff, sometimes, a lot of times, it's surface. There's deeper shit going on that we're not talking about. So when we're talking about cops doing their shit and being fucked up as they always have been, we're only scratching the surface because they're doing what they've been told to do. We're not talking about these people, right? So the same thing applies.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're back.
I think, we're back.
Those issues are the 700-pound elephant in the room, meaning we don't talk. We don't talk about finances. We don't talk about honoring one another. We don't. So how the fuck, if we don't talk about these things, are we going to translate that to music? If the discussion isn't happening in the community, how the hell are we going to translate that? I mean, I want your opinion. I don't know what that looks like other than what we're doing right now. This show was designed to give our city a voice other than the voices that have been present, because they're not talking about, the people that have inspired other people. All we're talking about are the surface winners, people that have done these things, but not the people, not the unsung heroes. You know, so I wanted a show that gave people a voice in my city about our hip hop culture and talk about things that are real, like this right here. And how do we address it? You know,
it can't be addressed. Listen, I think the generation that came from the 80s, from the crack era, I think I was looking on YouTube one day. And everything, every content, every narrative, every story is an ex-drug dealer talking about what he used to have, how he was getting so many keys, how he was getting it back in the day. And they have a platform now to talk about the destruction of Black America. You understand? They have a platform to talk about and brag about the destruction that they did to their community.
Right.
Some of them are getting out of jail and saying, stuff like, I want to teach the youth this or that. But then they go right back into their stories, their war stories. I was getting 10 keys a week. I was getting 50 keys a week. I had 5 Mercedes. I had $8 million in my house. All this kind of BS. And it's these stories are getting nowhere. It's not. These are not positive stories. First of all.
Right.
Second of all, everything that you did, all the destruction you caused, all the lives you took, all the families you torn apart, all the destruction, the drugs that you put into your neighborhood, you were working for the government the whole time.
Right.
So when it was all said and done, and they got enough money out of this drug, out of the crack era, to fund the war of 1991. That's what the hell it was all about.
Right.
They put your ass in jail for 20 to 25 years. And some of you are still in jail from 1986, 87, 88. So
Right.
once they used you and to sell their drugs that they put into our community, they locked
Right.
you up.
Right.
Now you're getting out of jail 25, 28 years later, and you're telling the same old stories. Now,
Right.
young people are looking at these stories and they're looking at you as a hero. Oh,
Right.
he didn't snitch. He wasn't no snitch. Yo, he was
Right.
an upstanding Negro. All this BS, and these narratives, these stories are going nowhere. They're not
Right.
teaching the youth anything.
Right,
So I
brother.
think what's going on right now is a lot of artists don't have any motivation to look at because they're not
Right.
hearing nothing. They're not
Right.
hearing stories from the generation from the 80s or the 90s that's
Right.
teaching them something. All they're hearing about is, if you go back to a lot of these songs, a lot of these artists are listening to everything about killing, about flipping drugs, about strippers, about calling women B words and whores and all that stuff. They're just recycling lyrics. That's all they're doing. They're recycling
Right.
the lyrics they already heard. So that's
Right.
why they're making songs out of them. That's why Meg Thee Stallion could come up with a song like WAP, and she feels no remorse about it. And she should. I mean, if that's what she want to do, so be it. What I'm saying is that if she's listening to Lil' Kim, if she's listening to Foxy Brown and not listening to Lauryn Hill, of course she's going to listen. She's going to put a WAP song out because she looks at Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown and Trina as the ones who paved the way for what she's doing.
Right.
You understand? She's not
Right.
looking at a Bahamadia. She's not looking at Queen Latifah or MC Light. She's not
Right.
looking at that. She's looking at a Cardi B, a Lil' Kim, who was raunchy. Oh, they're doing what I do. I'm going to do that kind of music. I'm going
Right.
to talk about my whatever vagina. And I'm looking, I look on Instagram, and the shame of it all is that through all that's going on right now, and the Black empowerment and women trying to uplift each other, you still got women every page, every time you scroll down. There's a woman shaking her ass. There's a
Right.
woman twerking. There's a woman who's talking about somebody's hating on me. I'm a boss bitch. I'm like, where are we with all this? What is going on with our people? It's like,
Right.
what the hell?
Right.
Did somebody drop something in the water and made us crazy overnight?
So
It's like,
right.
what?
Like I said, we're talking, we're communicating, we have all the information.
But it's not going to the music because the
Right.
young artists they're on IG all the time. They're on YouTube all the time. They have nothing positive to go on.
Right.
So if the drug dealer is coming out of jail after 25 years and he's sitting on some kind of show or whatever, and they're saying, "Yo, tell us about 1985." Oh man, I was getting like 800,000 a week. I was getting.
Right.
Where's the motivation?
Right.
He's not saying that one time, I was an asshole. I sold drugs to my people. I effed up my life. I took 25 years out of my life and effed it up. He's not saying that.
Right.
He's glorifying what he did, and he want to relive his glory days, which
Right.
are over. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they're not going to let that happen again. That's not going to ever happen again.
And shouts out to people like my son, who came out doing a bid and immediately went on radio publicly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And rhymed his lyrics and said, "I'm sorry that I told you guys such and such.
Right.
And I wish somebody would have told me, because that whole life that you're talking about is a lie.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
It's a lie. There's no reason, when we know they're either trying to murder us or lock us up, to give them any more reason to take one more brother off the streets.
You know what I always say? When you out there doing crime and you're destroying your neighborhood, whether you're murdering, whether you're robbing, whether you're selling drugs, your boss is the government. Your boss is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And they're looking at you, and they're your supervisors. So once you F up, like on a job, when you F up, they're going to fire you. Only this in this instance, your ass is going to prison. You understand what I'm saying? So they're waiting for you to mess up. They're waiting for you to do stupid stuff. It's unfortunate a lot of brothers are in jail who are in there innocently in jail, but they just got caught up in the fact that, listen, if you take one, take all of them. That's how they're looking at it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's we're living in a time right now where we should be just pretty much just trying to figure out our next move.
As a whole.
As a whole. And our next move should not be, our next move actually should be either the president going to work for us or we're not voting for your ass. We'll hold our vote. You understand what I'm saying? If you're going to present something to Biden right now, present to him how we're going to straighten all this stuff out. It's like I always say about a politician, whether he's local or whether he's the president, the congressman, the senator, whoever. The 4 years he's in there, if your neighborhood is in ruins, and the 4 years when he leaves, if your neighborhood is still in ruins, what the hell did he really do? You understand what I'm saying? So the 8 years, people actually think a president is really going to come to your neighborhood and say, hey, what do you need? Listen, that's not his job. He make executive orders. A president is not going to come to your house, knock on your door, say, hey, you need any money? Is everything okay? No, that doesn't work like that. President only goes by the money that the community needs. If the borough president, the assemblyman, if the congressman, the senator, the mayor, the governor needs funding for this and that, if the neighborhood is doing bad in crime, we need funding to stop the crime. That's when they go to the president, they go to the White House or whatever. They got to pass all these bills or whatever. So we got to stop thinking that the president is just going to solve the problems. You understand what I'm saying? We got to stop thinking the president, oh, we got a Democrat. Everything is no. We had a Democrat when Barack Obama was in office, and Eric Garner still got choked in broad daylight. Sandra Bland still got killed. Trayvon Martin was killed. So
talk about it.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's at the helm. You got to speak to your local politicians about the BS that's going on in your communities. You understand? And it's like vote. You got to vote people out who's not doing their job, because they're going to come to you every 2 years, every 3 years, every 4 years, where they're up for re-election. They're going to put in a little work in your neighborhood. They're going to say, oh, they're going to vote for me because I put this in the neighborhood. I put a new bodega on the corner. I put a new corner store over here. You know, so it's like, you know, I put up a new basketball court. You know, it's like, what the hell? So, yeah, we got to figure out what we're going to do as a whole. Because what I see right now is that we're taking steps backwards every day. We're taking a lot of steps backwards. Everybody was screaming Black Lives Matter for 1 minute. Now nobody's saying nothing about it. Everybody was screaming Breonna Taylor. When that didn't work out, everybody's like, oh, okay, the party's over. We're done. So it's like everybody, once things don't work out, we just turn our backs on it and we just leave it alone. 381 days was the boycott in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, that when the civil rights movement started. 381-day boycott. They didn't budge. That's what you call willpower. That's what you call a freaking movement. You understand? Doesn't last for 1 or 2 months at a time. It lasts. You gotta you gotta hit them where it hurts. The only thing we got left.
And that's why they hit us where it hurts. That's why they are able to change our minds with money, They pay us off one little bit at a time. They get one person over here. Well, you gotta. That's why they were so. Trump was so on it about opening everything up back up so everybody could get back to work or have to go back to work, because then they can't be doing stuff like that. If they're working, they can't be protesting. So exactly. Part of having to have the crazy rents we have and all these crazy bills we have in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of all this police brutality, and they're still hitting us over the head. They wanted us to go back to work or suffer the consequences, be homeless. So for a lot of people, They'd rather be home than fight for their rights.
Yeah, that's true.
And until
But
we
here's the
solve that
thing, though.
problem, it's gonna be
Right.
tough.
Exactly, that's true. We got to solve the problems within ourselves first.
We got
You
to be
understand what
willing
I'm
to
saying?
sacrifice losing it all
We got to be
to
willing.
gain what we want. Because
Right.
as long as we don't have, the willingness, because we're talking about it, but for a lot of people, just like these politicians, they don't want to lose power. Well, for the working man that's
Right.
going through the struggle, sometimes it's best for him to keep his mouth closed. This is how shit has been going on for so long because
Right.
we've been silent.
Right.
If they give us a home in a nice neighborhood, we're not trying
Right.
to make our neighbors hate us. We
Yeah.
worked all our lives to get to this house.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna lose my job to fight for you, and that's what we got to get past. Because everything you talked about in the '60s, we didn't have it.
We didn't have it. Yeah.
We didn't have it. We didn't have those. We were living in tenements. We were, we as a people were the outcasts. So we had no choice but to go out there. But there were still people, in our culture, in our families that were saying, "Nah, man, you don't want to lose your job, man.
Right, exactly.
You don't want to lose your standing, man. You work so hard. You go."
That's one thing I touched on.
Down here in Florida, they're trying to make it a felony.
Yeah.
To protest. If you
crazy.
protest and do something, go against their law. This governor down here is not playing with the people down here. He's not.
We have Rick Scott. Is that Rick Scott down there?
No, that's Governor DeSantis.
Oh, okay. Rick Scott is the senator. He's a senator.
He's the senator. Yeah. Yes, he was the governor.
Right.
He was the last governor. Yeah, but down here they're literally trying to make protesting criminal. So.
Oh yeah.
And that's all over the country.
I'm not surprised. I'm not the least bit surprised because what you have now is, it's like I told someone when all this started and people were saying we got to get Trump out of office. And I said, listen, this is what's going to happen. They're not going to turn this country over to anarchists, to protesters, to people in the streets looting and rioting, to people burning cars. And it has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter doing it, but somebody's doing it to make it seem like Black Lives Matter is doing it. They're not going to turn this country over to a bunch of rioters. That's not going to happen.
Right.
They'd rather burn this country to the ground before they turn it over to them.
Right.
So the only thing we can do, the only thing we have left is our vote. Right. And the more you look at things, the more you hear Biden talk, the more you hear Trump talk, it's like they're going in circles. They're going in circles. First of all, they're carrying on like two babies. Right. And they're not getting to the issues and the problems within this country, which is the have and the have-nots. The gap between the have and the have-nots have not been this far in God knows how long. I mean, this is either you're rich or you're poor. You know what I'm saying? Right. At one point, it was like rich, middle class, and poor. You don't have middle class anymore. You have rich and poor. That's it.
Right.
Nobody's getting to the root of the problem. People are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
People are barely making it. You have now where the landlords are about to evict people out of their apartments because some people can't go back to work.
Right.
Something should have been put in place since March to take care of this whole situation. If they knew, which I'm sure they knew, this was going to happen.
Right.
They should have been paying off these landlords. They should have been, you know what I mean? I mean, something should have been put in place. But the thing is, we have to realize the only people we have to rely on is each other as citizens.
Right.
And if we don't band together as every race and stop letting the media dictate that blacks is against whites, whites is against blacks.
Right.
We're going to come to some kind of civil war in the streets because we're being promoted. Like Don King is promoting a fight. Right. The media is promoting all this stuff.
Right.
There's another Karen on the loose She's saying a black man and looked at her the wrong way. There's another cop had, so it's all this black and white narrative every freaking day.
Right.
And we're going against one another. Well, we should be going against the freaking establishment.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Go against the conglomerate, the
Right.
one that's keeping you in the place that you are.
Right. Right.
But we don't see that. All we see is what the media is perpetuating, and the media is starting. Black and white, and so many subliminal messages they still putting this narrative out there. The black man is the one that's bringing down this country. The white woman is the one that's bringing down this country. So we're falling into all this stuff. We're falling into a deep trap that we can't get out of. Nobody wants a race war. Nobody gets paid from a race war but the people who support and sponsor a race war.
Right.
We're not gonna get paid up for race war. We're gonna die in a race war. That's about it.
Right.
But there's money in everything. There's even money in a race war.
Right.
So trust me when I say there's money in everything.
Right.
You see what's happening in Nigeria right now. People are protesting in the streets the same way they was protesting over here. I mean, it's becoming a worldwide thing with people are just getting fed up. I think in 2002, 2003, they had they took over Wall Street with the 1% whole thing that was happening. And that was a sign of things to come. People really didn't see what was going on at that time, but that was a sign of things to come. They was trying to awaken us to what was going on then, but Fox News was shutting them down and calling them hippies and saying they were a bunch of lazy people and they were out there begging for money.
Right.
This is like people who were out there was like 98% Caucasian. So
Right.
I don't know where they got that from.
Right. Right. Well, speaking of all these politics, we do have a presidential debate coming on tonight, which I know plenty of my listeners are going to, people tuned in are going to watch tonight to see the hijinks. But you've spoken truth to power. You literally spoke this hip hop language that what we talk about amongst each other needs to be spoken more. We need more love on this world. We need more understanding in this world, and we need to share our wisdom with the youth.
We need to let these children know that we can get along. Right. We can get along as adults without fighting.
Right. And we need to be more supportive of the young people and not so much tell them what to do, but be like a help desk for them. When they have questions, that we're not looking at them like we're smarter than you, we're bigger than you. We need to be better as, better leaders when it comes to, because there is a divide and there is, that kind of, the youths don't want to listen to the old heads. That's always been that way. But when you push them in a loving way, people get further with sugar sometimes. If you can honestly just come to them sometimes and be like, hey, bro, I got you. What do you need to know? This is your baby. I'm just here to support you.
Well, we have to go back to slavery days. If that's the tactic that was used, old black male versus young black male, old black woman versus young black woman, and we're still doing that to this day. We're comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Just enjoy the talent, but we always gonna have to just enjoy the talent. You never see ESPN putting the whole focus on Tom Brady and Joe Montana.
Right.
They'll just call Brady the GOAT and leave it at that. Right. But every time a Jordan and a LeBron comes along, and that separates the young and the old too, because the young people are into LeBron, the older people are into Michael Jordan. Now you have a debate within that right there.
Right. And then people stop talking. And then people stop talking to each other. And now we're talking over each other. And that's what we need to change in this world. But I could talk to you for so many hours, dude, man, because you're like a walking encyclopedia of my childhood and hip hop in general. So, but I know I need to cut this conversation a little bit short tonight. But I want to have you back. But before we go, I need to know something. What is your top 5 MCs?
Oh man,
dead or alive?
Oh man,
dead or alive, my brother. And I know you will have a nice selection of those MCs. Dead or alive, bro.
Oh man, Young MC, Hammer, Vanilla Ice. I'm just playing.
Oh, bro,
I
I
would
was like,
have.
wow. That knew about threw me back. I was like, okay. No, I know it's
um, yeah, I come from the school where I learned it from.
right,
So
right.
I would go with Kaz, Melly Mel,
Yeah.
Kumo D,
Wow.
and then I
Yes.
would throw in KRS-One, and I'll throw
Yes.
in Rakim because
Let's
Rakim is
go.
like
Let's
the
go.
yeah, he's just like the general of. I mean, Rakim just ushered in a whole new, different kind of
Right.
era
Right.
of rapping. Um,
Shouts out to Long
I don't
Island. Let's
think,
go.
yeah, I don't think no, and I could be 100% wrong. I don't think nobody can touch Rakim as far as just if you let him just go loose.
Right.
I was listening to the Watcher Part Two with Jay-Z and Dr. Dre
Right.
and Rakim,
Right.
and you could tell Jay-Z was putting his all into that verse because he knew Rakim was on that track.
Right. Right.
And Rakim just came on and just tore that track a new one.
Right.
And it was
Right.
like
Right.
someone was telling Jay-Z, yeah, you good, but you can't get deep like this. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
cash is the topic, the objective out of pockets. Take the crack and chop it. But those who haven't got it,
Yes.
the way to add a profit is catastrophic. I take the gat. I mean, he was
Right.
dancing all around Jay-Z. Jay-Z is like
I'm still stuck on the second verse from I Ain't No Joke because for me the first verse of I Ain't No Joke was pretty much like perfection, and he murdered his own verse in a song. Like there was no way to get better than that, and he did. And it was like, but that's raw. That's raw.
He's just a walking almanac. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, it's just.
Hey man, but hey, dude, you don't know what it means to me to talk to one of my heroes of growing up and listening to you. Listening to you all these years. I know for a lot of people in Orlando, this is awesome too because we grew up on your music, even though we weren't in New York. I mean, we grew up. We followed y'all careers, and man, you made us proud. You know, you did your thing, bro. And this is what hip hop culture is all about, bro. I would love to have you back, man, because
anytime,
like I said,
anytime.
This is an amazing conversation, and that's all we do. We talk about hip hop, man. And so thank you once again. Man. Thank you once again.
Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, bro. Everybody. Yes, Kool Rock Ski joining the show from the Fat Boys. Let's go, man. Let's go. Thank you, bro.
All right, peace out, man.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Peace.
So yes, we did it, bro. That is the Soul Show with Kool Rock Ski, man. So honored, so privileged to have this brother join the show today, man. It is amazing, man. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. You could go now to your debate and watch the buffoonery. Until tomorrow, you know how we do, man. It's all about hip hop. It's all about the city of Orlando. Let's go, people.